Welcome to Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are. My name is Jake, and this is the 2022 Audi Q7. Now, this Audi was initially supposed to come with me to VIR a few weeks prior to when I'm recording this video, but despite this being a fully loaded prestige package with luxury package, the trailer hitch is a $750 option that this one doesn't have. Audi has promised me we will get a Q7 with a trailer hitch for the 2023 model year here in the DC area, so I will be doing a towing test with it at that point. But since this Q7 got rescheduled, I decided to take it up to New Jersey, where we are doing a test run for one of our road rallies, where we get a bunch of people together, do a nice scenic drive for an hour and a half or so through some really good back roads, and then have a whole bunch of fun in the evening over dinner and maybe some cocktails. So this Audi has been put to highway duty and back roads duty both, which is honestly how most people are going to use these, more than towing a trailer. So let's talk about what this 2022 Audi Q7 is and take a full interior tour, because this one is quite nice, and then we'll get it on the road on some back roads and some highways and talk about how it actually is behind the wheel. All right, so first of all, what is the 2022 Audi Q7? Well, this is only the second generation of the Q7. These first came out for the 2016 model year, so it's not the newest thing on the block. However, Audi did do a fairly significant update, mostly to the interior and to the drivetrain options for 2020. So we've had this basic vehicle for a little while now, but it's on a platform that is shared with a lot of other vehicles. If you recall, if you're a Q7 enthusiast, as I'm sure at least 7 of you are, the original Q7 shared a platform with the Porsche Cayenne and the Volkswagen Touareg back when those were still a thing. Unfortunately, Americans don't like expensive Volkswagens, so we get the Atlas now. But the second generation of this platform does live on as the MLB Evo, and it underpins this Q7, the current Porsche Cayenne, the Bentley Bentayga, and the Lamborghini Urus. So the platform has to be very versatile. The wheelbase of the Q7 is going to be longer than the Cayenne because this is a 3-row vehicle where the Cayenne is only a 2-row. So you get quite a bit extra wheelbase here, and of course the body itself is also longer to accommodate that 3rd row of seats. We'll show you how big or not they are in the interior tour. Drivetrain-wise, with the 2022s, you can have your choice of 3 different engines, although the third is in the hotter, higher horsepower SQ7. So with the regular Q7, your choices are either a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder or this one, which is a 3-liter turbocharged V6. The V6 does have a mild hybrid capability. We're seeing that in several manufacturers' vehicles now. And really what that does, you're not going to drive this vehicle on the battery alone. It just gives you kind of this starter generator sort of deal that lets the engine turn off as you're coming to a stoplight or stop sign, and then it can refire the engine without really needing a starter motor. So it's a little smoother on the auto start stop, and in theory, you save a little bit of gas. You'll notice when you first turn the Q7 on, when you hit the start button, there's no cranking sound like a starter would make. It just sort of turns the engine on and that's it. Now, engine-wise, 3-liter turbocharged V6, and it makes 335 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. That goes exclusively to an 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission, which is kind of the norm these days, and standard quattro all-wheel drive, which Audi has, of course, made their hallmark for the last several decades. Quattro is one of those systems that is fully automatic. There are no buttons to push, there's nothing to do. You do have drive modes that adjust everything, but the all-wheel drive is just going to be doing its own thing. There's no low range, there's no locking diffs, it's all computer controlled, but for most people it should do just fine. Now, I mentioned this is fully loaded. This is a Q7 55, which is the V6 model, and then this has the Prestige package on it, which is, for the most part, interior upgrades, which we'll show you in just a second. You do also get a few mechanical differences with the Prestige package. Notably, you get 4-corner air suspension with active dampers. So your shock absorbers can change how stiff or soft they ride, and then you've got air suspension on all 4 wheels, so it can also change the ride quality a little bit and also set the ride height. So yes, in your off-road mode, you can raise this up a little bit, which is handy if you're on a bad trail, if you're going camping, or if it's just really snowy or something and you want that extra little bit of clearance. It will also lower itself in the dynamic mode, which is its sport mode, so you can get a little bit, lower to the ground, slightly better handling in theory, and it'll do its own thing on the highway too. If you leave it in automatic, it'll lower just a touch for the sake of fuel economy. Now, I did have one friend mention that these wheels seemed a little small, and they do kind of look it to me, although these are fairly big wheels and tires. These are a 20-inch wheel. This is the smallest wheel you can get on one of these. They do offer 21s and 22s, but the 20s, you get a lot of sidewall here. It's a 285/45 series tire. So as a reminder, 285 is the width of the tire in millimeters, and then 45% of that is the sidewall height. I'm not smart enough to do math on the fly, but these are a pretty big sidewall, which contributes to ride quality. But I do think the styling of this vehicle is helped out when you get a 21-inch wheel. It takes a little bit of that sidewall out and makes the whole thing look a little more sleek and sporty. Now, like I said, there is an SQ7, so Audi's not going for sporty with this. They're really going for refined comfort, people moving, stuff moving, highway road tripping, those sorts of things. So that's what we're gonna do with it. So let's take a little interior tour, and then we'll get on the road and talk all about how this 2022 Audi Q7 55 actually drives. All right, so let's take a look at the 2022 Audi Q7 Interior. And like I said, this is the fully loaded one with the executive package that's part of the Prestige package and also the luxury package. So what that means is these Okapi brown seats have a special leather on them that is supposedly nicer. I don't know if I'm quite the connoisseur of leather seats, but the material certainly seems quite nice. These do have an extendable thigh bolster, which you see is fully extended here. You can control that in one of the screen settings. We'll show you that in just a second. Looking down here, you've also got this button in the center. These all control your lumbar. This guy is for massage. So these seats, both front seats, are massaging front seats, which is pretty nice on a long road trip. Otherwise, this interior is a little stark. It's a lot of screens going on. So you have touch controls here for your lights, and then this steering wheel is kind of the corporate steering wheel. You've got controls over here for your digital cockpit, your virtual cockpit, and then over here for your media and your telephone. Looking behind it, you've got a control right here for your lane keep assist, lane centering, and down here, this is your cruise control with the adaptive cruise. Now, before we sit down, I'll show you the door panel just because it's got this really pretty wood. This is an option you can add in, 2-position memory, and then typical window controls and mirror controls over here. So, getting inside, you've got a fully digital cluster. I'm going to go ahead and hit the start button. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't really hear a starter motor go. It's just sort of a engine comes to life, and that's that sort of thing. So this is the virtual cockpit, which is common across many Audis now. This one does have physical temperature and fuel gauges, which some of the smaller Audis do not. If you hit the view button, you can shrink things down, and you can, of course, load your map as soon as that loads up. So you've got your maps here, and you can zoom in and out on the steering wheel, which is pretty cool. This is really nice. It will not work with Apple CarPlay. Of course, you have to use the Audi built-in navigation, which is fine. It's Google enabled, so it will have traffic and everything going on there. You've got a lot of piano black plastic going on, but with the screens turned on, it's not necessarily so bad. So you've got your top screen here, which is for all of your infotainment system settings. You can load up CarPlay if you'd like, and that is, of course, wireless. You can also use the factory navigation. You've got your own media controls, and then a lot of your controls here are accessed through this vehicle menu. So you've got different items for your drive select, which is your different drive modes, your lights, your AC, your driver assistance, but the biggest one here is the seats. So you can adjust your bolsters for both the side of the seat and the lower cushion right here. And then if you swipe, you can also control your massage and the balance of the seat temperature if you want it to affect more of your back or your butt, or right now it's set to the middle setting. And then driver seat entry assistance, it just moves the seat all the way back when you get in and out. So nice to have all these options. If you hit the massage button on the seat while you're driving, it calls up this menu pretty quickly, so you can just pick which massage you want and it'll start it automatically. So pretty easy. Now looking down here, this is the screen that I'm not so nuts about because I just don't know what this does that's better than a bunch of buttons and knobs would be. This is harder to use while you're driving. This controls your climate control and all of what Audi calls your convenience functions. So your heated and ventilated seats, your auto start stop, your hill descent control, those sorts of things are controlled down here. And then this row of quote, buttons is all just touch-sensitive pieces. So the drive select, traction control, hazards, and defrost are all just touch panels. Now Audi does do haptic pretty nicely. You can hear it clicking when I touch things. So that's nice, but I've had this screen in a couple other Audis and I just don't quite understand the point of it. But in any case, you do have a few other hard buttons here, your engine start stop, parking assist, and right here is your driver assistance control that will just call up to let you pick what you want. Looking further back, this is the traditional Audi mono-stable shifter that's in pretty much everything now, your parking brake control, 12-volt socket, and cup holders. Further back, this armrest is actually nice because it moves up and down a little bit if you want a little higher armrest or lower. This is just a little tray. What I don't like, and I'll show you here, is this center console is not very deep at all, and you can see there's a wireless charging mat there, but then it's just that little pocket, so you can't store a lot of stuff in here, and I'm not sure why. You'll note I've got a USB cord plugged in. There's just 2 USB-C ports in here, just because on road trips I don't like using wireless charging and wireless CarPlay. I want higher sound quality, and I want to keep the phone charged the whole time, that's all. But the CarPlay setup itself is indeed wireless. All right, so second row of the 2022 Q7. So you'll note you've got actually 3 separate seats going on here, so they're not connected, and I'll show you why that's actually nice. So all of these can slide forward and back. You've got a manual lever right here that you can pull and slide the seat forward so you can increase legroom for the third row. So that is as far forward as it goes, and then you can crank it all the way back and get a little bit more legroom going on there. So nice to have it. And then as far as looking at other second row amenities here, you do have quad zone climate control. That's a part of the packages that are on this car. So you've got touch controls, which gross, but you can control your temperature and fan speed for each of your backseat passengers here. And of course, it's also automatic if you'd like, and the outboard 2 seats are heated. You do have a few more charging ports down here, a 12-volt and a couple USB-Cs. And then looking at the door panel, there are manually adjustable sunshades you can use. So all nice. I like the fact that you've got a climate vent here, plus you've got the ones down here. So you've got a nice amount of air volume moving up here. Other thing worth mentioning as part of this luxury package is this fancy headliner. This is an upcharge as part of the Lux package that gives you the nicer seats. Now flipping the camera around here, I am 6'1". I have good headroom actually. There's room here between the top of my head and the roof, which I really like. And then if you look down at how my legs are set, the seat is in its kind of middle position. I can move it back a little bit and get quite a bit of legroom going on. And even if I move it all the way up, right about here is where my knees are in the back of the seat. So I wouldn't love that, but I could do it for a brief drive, you know, across town or something. Now, why that matters is because I'm going to show you the third row where space is at a little bit more of a premium. Now, I've got the third row already up, and the way you get to it is first by pulling this lever here, the seat flops down, and then you can see you still have to climb over it. So if you grab this lever and just push and pull, then the entire seat flips up. Now, you'll notice there's not a lot of legroom going on back here. It is pretty tight. So I will climb in. Before I do, I'll show you, you've got power controls here for your third row, so you can adjust them both from here, or if you're in the hatch looking to fold everything, you can do that as well. So if I hop in, this is real-time selfie cam here of me getting comfortable in the back seat. My head is in the roof, and you do have, you've got some lights, you've got speakers, which is great for the sound system. But it is tight back here. You can see my legs, you know, if I pull the seat back, I have to move my foot. I can do it. And if I pull the seat up, you know, I can get the seat all the way back here. But if I slide over to where the seats are already raised, do I fit? Oh my goodness. Yes, sort of. This is not the most comfortable. These are really for kids only. So, you know, if you have shorter friends, sure, they'll fit. You can only put 2 back here, but these are really meant for kids. Now, Audi does mention that all 5 rear seats between the second and third row do have latch anchors. So if you're looking to put a lot of car seats in this car, you can fit 5 car seats in here, according to Audi, because they all have the latch tethers. So it makes them easy to clip in and out. With that, I'm going to try and get out of this back seat now. And same thing, you just push on the little lever. No, maybe not. Okay, so flip it down, push on the lever, and now we get to get out of here. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, these are meant for kids. Now let's show you the trunk here, because with the third row up, you've got some space, but not a ton. Okay, so popping the rear hatch, of course it is powered. I do have the third row seats up, and you can see, you know, there's some space back here. Not a ton. If you need to bring some soft-sided bags, you could cram things around and it would work, but it's not the biggest. Of course, if you want something bigger, you're gonna have to go with like a body-on-frame 3-row, like, you know, a Navigator L, an Escalade, one of those, but those are gonna drive far differently than something like this Audi Q7. Couple interesting controls back here. These will lower your seats, so if you push one, it will push and hold, it will flop down, and you do get a flat floor. And if you fold the second row not up like that, but leave it down, it's also flat. More interestingly, you've also got these controls that use the air suspension to raise and lower the car. You can there you go, you can see it. Watch where it says stop on the ground. You can see it lowering and raising. So really handy if you're looking to load something kind of heavy in the car and make the car squat a little bit. You can absolutely do that, and it's just kind of a clever trickery of the air suspension. I'll go ahead and put this seat back up so that none of my stuff goes flying back here. And with that, let's get behind the wheel and talk about how this Audi Q7 is today. All right, so let's talk about this 2022 Audi Q7. So as far as where I'm driving this thing, I am up in New Jersey doing a final test run with a few of my other event planners for one of our road rallies. So if that interests you, by the time you watch this one will be over, but we will be planning more later in the year and into 2023. So check out our website for those. But I had to get from DC all the way up to New Jersey in this Q7, so I drove it all the way up here in comfort mode with everything set to be fully relaxed, and that is, I think, where this car is at its most home. This is a very comfortable cruiser. I did 180 miles this morning and barely felt it. It was so nice between the ride quality, the seats, the massagers in the seats, the excellent Bang & Olufsen sound system. Just a wonderful cruiser. 180 miles on I-95, which can be, you know, somewhat of a stressful drive sometimes. In comfort mode, the suspension in particular, super duper comfy between the adaptive airbags for the ride height and the adaptive dampers for the ride quality and the stiffness of the car. I really like it in comfort. It is super soft. So on the highway, it's perfect. On back roads like where I am now, less perfect. It's soft, and that combines in comfort mode with a throttle pedal that is kind of soupy, kind of laggy. Now that's all by design, because this is meant first and foremost, oh my God, that was a huge bird. This is meant first and foremost to be a cruiser. Everything in here is just tremendously well done. All the controls feel nice. Everything feels so well screwed together. It's so tight. I really have enjoyed this car from just a highway cruiser perspective. Now, of course, we're on back roads. I don't want it to be soft and cushy and, you know, soupy and all that stuff. So you do have the drive select modes here. A couple of them are tuned more for either fully off-road or kind of a mix of conditions. They call that all-road in a cheeky nod to their heritage. But beyond those, you've got comfort, and then you've got dynamic, which is the sportiest drive mode you can have on this car. And dynamic will firm up the shocks. It will lower the ride height with the airbags. It will make the steering a little stiffer, and it will sharpen up the throttle response and the transmission's behavior. So even if you don't use the shift paddles that are on the steering wheel, you've still got a transmission that will be much more snappy. And if I put my foot in it, it does have pretty good amount of power and torque. There is a little bit of turbo lag away from a stop, whether you're in comfort or dynamic. That's just kind of how it feels. But on the flip side, given you want the turbo to do a lot of the work at higher RPMs in a car this big, once you're already moving, it feels really strong power-wise from like 2,500 RPM almost all the way to redline. So you don't have power that falls off. In dynamic mode with everything firmed up, I feel it feels like a much more competent car on these back roads. As far as other driving dynamics, beyond just the acceleration and the turbo and how this engine feels, you do have a ZF 8-speed torque converter automatic. In sport mode, it feels nice and snappy. It behaves much better for a back road than it does in comfort or its a regular D mode. You can also slide the shifter over, click it like this, and you're in manual mode, and that activates the paddles full time. You can use them whenever you want, but they respond relatively quickly for this being a not so sporty iteration of the ZF8, implemented in an SUV. It's tuned pretty well, and it'll hold a gear for you. And approaching a turn, it lets you hold that, and it feels fine. This is far more capable than most people will ever push it, to any sort of limits. It takes a turn, it takes a fast off-ramp really nicely for what it is. Steering feel, it gets heavier. I think it is okay feel. You're not gonna read every pebble in the road, but again, that's not the point of the car. And then brakes have good initial bite from the pedal. It's not too aggressive, it's not too soft. It's very confidence-inspiring right away. And then it's a nice progressive pedal that feels good all the way through the travel as you lay into it a little bit more. For those of you who know, my personal vehicle is a 958 generation Porsche Cayenne diesel, which is on the prior version of the Q7's platform. So they don't really share anything, but they had to make that platform back then do a lot of things really well, and even more so with the current platform that this Q7 is on. It's called MLB Evo, because this platform underpins not only the Q7 but the Porsche Cayenne and the Lamborghini Urus and the Bentley Bentayga, so it has to be good. And what's nice is that in making it so good for those cars, the Q7, despite not being the sporty one, at least in this iteration, still feels really good. So is it the sharpest? No, but everything in dynamic mode feels really, really nice. And then when we're all done with this drive, I'm going to put it back to comfort. I'm going to keep my massaging seat turned on. I'm going to turn some good music up on the B&O sound system, and I'm going to point it south on 95 and cruise. And it's going to be an excellent car to put 500 plus miles on in one day. And you could do it by yourself, you could do it with your family or a bunch of friends in the back, and you're good to go. All right, and that is it for this review of the 2022 Audi Q7 55 Prestige. Thank you so much for coming along. As always, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe right here on YouTube. Give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Out Motorsports if you want to see some shenanigans we're getting up to that aren't always posted here on YouTube. If you'd like to join a community of fellow LGBT automotive enthusiasts and motorsports competitors, head over to outmotorsports.com. We have events both in person and online coming up, and we would love to have you join us over there. Until next time, please stay safe, be well, see you for the next one.